Good evening, all. I'm Dustin, also known as Rope Aficionado, and welcome to Dominance Dialogues. This is the podcast where we explore the psychology, the sociology, and the cultures of BDSM. From intentional relationships to deeper conversations, this is your space for thought-provoking discussions that challenge and inspire, whether you're experienced or just curious. In tonight's discussion, we have Becoming a Slave, the Transformative Journey of Submission with Slaveauds. Slaveauds, thank you for joining us. Would you mind introducing yourself and a little bit about your experience, please?
Yes, of course. Thank you, sir, for having me tonight. And hello, everyone. I am Slaveauds, or known as Odds. I've been in the lifestyle for 20 years to Slave Master, or known as Master Jim the Guild, UK, on Zooms. I'm now 38. As I said, I've done this for 20 years. First started off in learning about it, about Slaveauds by my friends. They were very graciously to kind of guide me a wee bit into it. And I went to my very first Bdsm club in Glasgow in Scotland. And that is where really my journey actually started. That's when I first met Master and his girls. And that was, I felt at home, and that's when I found my peace.
You want to dive in a little bit about when you first met your master?
Yeah, well, I was meant to go to the BDSM club in Glasgow in Scotland with some friends, but they kind of like could not make it, sadly. So I was standing outside the BDSM club for about an hour, absolutely scared out my wits because I'd seen people going in, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm dressed properly or not. And of course, I had like a little skimpy maid's outfit and a big purple sparkly collar. Now, purple and sparkly, yeah, kind of, it looked good. And well, I went in, managed to get in. Of course, I got ID'd because they thought I was a lot younger than what I was. I was only 18. But I got ID'd. But anyway, digressing. I went in, made some friends, talked to a lot of people, getting an idea of what it was all about, the BDSM lifestyle. I mean, like, I came in with a fantasy of like Slaveauds. I was expecting people to be, you know what I mean, like mirrors, whipped, doing all that. And reality was that wasn't. In fact, a lot of people were like going like, so what are you into? And they accepted the words of, I don't know. It wasn't like, you are going to be this and you're going to be. And of course, I got introduced to a lot of people. And it was when I went into the dungeon area, that's when everything stopped for me. I knew there was play happening at the sides. That was very obvious. But it was just when I seen these girls around this gentleman, they were doing the poses of serving the glass, like serving the drinks like that, head bowed, and the demeanour was at peace. Everybody was happy, they were at peace, and I had just I don't know how long I stood there for watching this group of people serving, doing positions, and I'm like, wow. And that's when a jigsaw piece started working on me, if that makes sense. It was just like there was structure, there was love, there was respect. I was like, this is amazing. And I remember a voice behind me, and I got a fright in my life because I think I'd even stopped reading it at one point, where they said, isn't it beautiful? And I had turned around and I was meant to say, yes, sir. But that didn't come out. It was more like a squeak. So squeaky odds, like a little, you know, like dog chew toy. Yeah, that was me. And I was like, yeah. And they all ended up, some of the girls ended up getting up and walking past. And one went, hello. And I got so flustered. I was like, hi. And they went, come with us. And I ended up going with them. And I ended up having a talk with them by going like, so what were you doing? What position was that? Why did you bow your head? What did the collars mean? Because I noticed they had all different collars. So I was like, what does this all mean? And they were like, oh, it's all right, we'll introduce you to Master. And I was like, yes, please, that would be awesome. Yay. So I managed to kind of speak to some of the girls, and the girls were absolutely lovely. They were very welcoming. And of course, we went back into the dungeon area. And remember, I'm going to put you in a wee bit of an atmosphere, okay? It's a lot darker than in the area that we went to where it was quiet. It's a lot darker. It's quiet. You can hear the flogging's happen. You can hear a whish of a cane, but it was kind of dark, and I couldn't really see Master's features, so it was all mysterious almost. But I ended up going onto my knees into I would say now a humble position, but I didn't know that at the time. I just felt like I basically scrunched myself up into a small ball as much as possible, and the Master had actually, I had heard Master saying, yes, girls, what is it? And they went, we would like to introduce you to somebody. And Master's now looking around kind of going like, really? Because he's expecting somebody to be standing there. And surely no, they were all started pointing down, going like, and Master looked down and he was like, get her up. And I'm kind of going like, what's happening? And they're all trying to like lift me up, and I'm kind of going like, what's going on? And he's like, whose child is this? And I'm like, I'm 18. And they went, oh, right. So we ended up having a wee bit of a conversation, but we had to keep it low whispers because you can't disturb the scene. So we all went out. Me and Master went out into another area where it was quieter and where it was free to talk. And we sat down and we actually spoke. And I had pulled out my little folder. It was brown and it said my research. It was brown, but it was only about that thin. Now, please understand that at the time I did not have the internet. I didn't have books. This was all just due to word of mouth by just a group of friends. And yeah, it was like I ended up speaking to Master. I had approached Master and I said, look, I would like to be one of your girls. I'll give you all my contacts. And Master automatically went, I can't. He says, I don't take anybody under 25. That was kind of like heartbreaking, because I was like, I'm not going to let go. I am not going to stop. I am going to, I am going to convince you to take me on. And sure enough, we agreed that later on we will meet in a public place, which was all good. I agreed to that, like meet in a public place where people knows where I was, people know who he was with, and do the basic. He knew the safety measures. I had to let somebody know where I was going, and the same with him. So we left. We've done our separate ways, and I must admit, I didn't realise I was going back and forward past Master's house at the time, because we did live quite close, but I didn't know about this at the time. I was only picking up little bits from the other girls because I was in contact with the other girls. So I was like talking with them, and I had not realised that they were kind of going to Master's ear, going like, you need to take her on. She's vulnerable. Somebody's going to come and take her and hurt her so badly that we can't just let her just do her thing, that let her just go. So Master was like, but she's 18, she doesn't know the world. And they went, we'll teach her that. We'll teach her the world. We'll try and help her, to guide her to be a person that will understand, be more open-minded than what she already is. And they had said, you can see in her eyes that she's been hurt. You know that that society and all that's been against her. She's probably got it a bit rough. Let's just go and see how it works out. So sure enough, at one night, I had a bit of an issue. And the issue was, now I'm going to go back a little bit. Before I met Master, I was put in care. And in care, I had no responsibility. I had no I didn't know what responsibility was. I didn't know what negotiation was. I didn't know the actual ways of living, if that makes sense, like a normal person. And so when I left care, I was put into I was taken to a carer who should have actually showed me how to cook, clean, pay rent, do all the running of a house. I did not get that. They were getting money, but every single time when they had friends, male friends, I had to leave the house. At some points, I had to basically wander streets at night. It got that bad. Now, where I also grew up there was ganglands, so I couldn't just go into another place and you could get chased. So that was basically my kind of way of going of things. And with me that night, I had to end up at Master's door. Master was not expecting me at his door, but I ended up at his door. And it was a terrible night for me, to be honest. It was dark. We had a lot of rain. I was soaked right through the bone, and I wasn't really dressed for the weather. I had a skimpy t-shirt on. You know what I mean? It was cotton, and I had a pair of shorts on, and basically hardly anything on my feet. And I ended up running for a couple of miles to Master's door, and I banged on his door that night, and he opened up. And he went, "What are you doing here?" And I just basically walked right past him, and I was literally going 5 miles an hour on my speech. Now, I have slowed down as much as I possibly can, so hopefully everybody can understand me. Hopefully River is in chat, help them out if they're struggling to understand. But I was I needed so much help. This was like, I need you to help me, please. And he did. He actually got some of his girls to come and kind of keep me, make me feel safe, which was really good. And then that's when they were like, "You need to take her." So they were actually like fighting on my side. The girls were fighting on my side. Even though Master was like, so we kind of came up with a plan for a year plan. The year plan was that he would send me away around the world. So I would actually go and look at different cultures, different foods, different laws. So the game plan was to go to America. So I went to New York, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Miami. I nearly got kicked out of San Francisco. Sorry. See, what happens is, don't go around and buying lobsters, okay, and try to put them back into the sea. They don't like that. In San Francisco, apparently the lobsters don't come from San Francisco Bay. No, I didn't know. I'm sorry. I also went to Turkey. Turkey was really interesting. I mean, I know we have kebabs over here, but they have proper kebabs, and it was just wonderful. And actually seeing a market over there was amazing. Like literally fruit that I'd never seen before. We usually have them in tins, but they had actual fruit and watermelon. That was really interesting to actually try watermelon, like fresh watermelon, for the first time. Because again, never had it in Scotland when I was when they were just coming in. So I was like, wow, this is amazing. And coconuts, you know what I mean? It was like, what's this? How do you get into that? And they showed me, and I was like, that's amazing. So, and then of course on my 30th birthday, Master had sent me away to Disneyland Paris with my friends, which was pretty awesome because it was a way to kind of say goodbye to Mickey Mouse, but that's never going to happen because I'm still a Disney fan, especially the villains. So yeah, that was. I would say I've actually like improved opening up my mind, because like that's actually another thing as well. I don't know about laws, but when I was over in America, I found it very difficult to keep up because you had state laws, you had, it was like, what? And you had to be very careful when you're traveling, because if you even just accidentally breaking the law, it can cause a lot of problems. I found this one out when I was in New York. They don't like it when you cross the road, not in a pub, like, we can just cross a road anywhere in the UK and you won't get done. Apparently in New York, they don't like jaywalking. I didn't know that was a thing. And if it's not at a crossing and you just randomly walk out in front of traffic, they really get upset. And again, I'm sorry, I didn't know that was a thing. And that's when I realised that, wait a minute, I'm in a different country with different laws, with different... I should be the one that should be looking up, because here's the thing, I don't know does not stand in the court of law. I don't know if that's
So
the way it works in the UK.
It sounds like in that year that you were away, you got a lot of different culture and experiences that some people might take a lifetime to get to.
Mm-hmm. And that's actually another thing as well. I would say that, I mean, as a person from the UK, I find it, sadly, that I am not very good with different languages. And when I went to America, that was actually an eye-opener for me, because people could actually speak up to 5 different languages, and I struggle with English. So I'm like, how could you just speak English one minute and then jump to another language on the next? And I was like, how? You know what I mean? How long did it take you to do that? And they're like, well, we do it at school. And I'm like, we only get taught French, German, and Spanish in our schools. And I was never good at French or Spanish. And
Me either.
That was actually a big problem as well when I was in France, because I did try to speak some French, but they ended up speaking total French to me, and I had no idea. I had to go to my friend and go, They went, what room are we in? And I went, I have no idea. And they went, what did you do? And I went, I just said, bonjour. And they went,
Fair.
oh, you did not. And I went, yeah, I just went bonjour. And they just started speaking French to me, and I didn't have a clue what they said. So they had to take the key, because that was in French, had to go and get the English version key. And I'm like, they went, just don't. And I'm like, but I was trying to be friendly.
So after your year away, then you came back to your master. What happened next, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, that's okay. Yeah, what had happened was I had actually sat down and I went, please don't ever let me go back to vanilla life ever again. I said, that's scary. Literally, that was actually my words, because I found that the society likes to move goalposts. Like 1 minute it's okay, next minute something's not okay. And I needed guidance. I needed not just guidance, I needed to have protocols, I needed to have structure, I needed to have rules that I could easily follow. So I had went to Master and went, look, I think I need this, and this in place. I need to actually have structure. I don't have structure in my life. I have noticed that when I do things on my own accord, I make bad decisions. I also need things in life where I have structure, where I can actually have a routine, where I wake up and I do things till I go to bed. It's so important that this is, to me, I mean, I don't know where else I can get it except from what I have seen from your household. So Master was like, okay, we'll do a year's training. Now, with Master's training, he uses training behaviour called BEST, which is behaviour, emotions, self-image, and thought processes. So I had to basically kind of figure out, well, what about me? You know what I mean? This has got to be about me. You know what I mean? So what is there things that I can change? What things can I not change? So I kind of like sat there and went, well, my behaviour is not really social acceptable, because of all the places that I've been to, a lot of people thought I was being aggressive. And I wasn't being aggressive, it's just my accent and where I come from. My culture is we are quite aggressive in speech. So it's like you could not tell if I was if I was in a happy mood, or, you know what I mean? It was really hard to balance. So I was like, well, hopefully I can change that. Well, what is behaviour? Well, it's something that we say and do. It's to do with our actions. What we say can also afflict that. So what can we change to change the behaviours? So I had to be kind of like sit down and kind of go, well, I come across aggressive, and that puts people off basically liking me. And I like people to like me, right? Because I'm a happy person. I want to be happy. I want to be joyous. And I want to project that. And then it was like, and then of course it slowly went from doing my behaviours into my emotions, because emotions also kind of came into play. Because I don't, what I'm going to say is that when you're growing up, people put little seeds, plant seeds into you, and sometimes it's beautiful flowers. Sometimes you get a wee bit of a weed or an unwanted plant, and it's very hard to pick out that unwanted plant and put it somewhere else, because you kind of forget about the positives. People do forget about the positives, so it's like, well, that rose can go there, but I'll just plant this weed into me and make that, and I'll believe that and what the good person said about me. You know what I mean? So you kind of get mangled up on emotions and feelings that are negative, and that is basically how I see myself with my emotions. I did not know how to express my emotions. I didn't have the opportunity growing up expressing myself properly, because it was either seen as you're being violent, you're being aggressive, or you're too hyper that you're unworkable with. And that was basically where I was. I did not get taught like how to control my emotions very well. And I still struggle with my emotions at times, because sometimes I'm like, well, how do I feel? Well, I'll probably feel like any other person, but I'll just go on with it. And sometimes that's bad, because I should actually be able to sit down and kind of go, Master, today I'm not feeling well, and could I get light duties? But sometimes I'm just too stubborn to go, I'll sleep when I die. I'll be fine. You know what I mean? That's the kind of way I am. And I sometimes need to do more. Well, Master does say that I need to do more self-care for myself, because I just sometimes just work through things that I should just basically be the time when I should just be resting. But I don't do bed rest very well. That goes to another story when I had my surgery. But so yeah, emotions and feelings and how I perceive values of events and actions. So when I have to go to events, I have to be in a clear headspace where I know exactly where I'm going to be, where I'm standing behind Master, behind my slave sisters, and see. So I don't get distracted, because if I get distracted, then I will basically break down, because I'll be like, where do I go? So it's very important that I know exactly where I'm going to be at the event and what protocol we're going to be using, because Master has 3 protocols. We have high, medium, and low. Low protocols is usually at the house, but still, service is still major number 1, focusing on Master and how we present ourselves. I would say medium protocol is when we're at Munchies doing Zoom calls. This would be classed as a medium, maybe high protocol. Protocol is we are wearing thicker collars with our bracelets, and we won't be able to speak to anybody except from using hand signals to each other, just to let people know, like, the water needs to be topped up, or the plates need to be taken away. That would be our high protocol. So again, the emotions of going to high protocols, sometimes it kind of be nerve-wracking for me. So it's like, I need to know and be in a headset before the time happens, if that makes sense, sir. But yeah, it's just something that I've worked on and got used to through these years. And because I've got a good connection with my sisters, they kind of know exactly what to do with me, because they know that I'm going to be like a hyperactive ball and then crash at the end of it. So they kind of go, we will be prepared with chocolate and sugar. And
So,
of course, sorry.
I just want to go way back because we've gone really far, but we haven't even defined what a slave is.
Okay, so
The first question that I actually have for you, technically, is in your own words, how would you define slave?
okay. So mine would be, a slave is who lives with their M type and devotes their life to their M type 24/7. They also, a slave will give up choice while encouraged to be responsible to share relevant information to come to do if it was a decision making, to impact the outcome of a decision. But the decision is not mine to make, but it's always up to the master to do that responsibility. It's also, I would say, the slave also gives up the choice and willing to give up more of themselves by giving the M type more control. But I believe that everybody, if it works for them, then I'm not really here to say yes or no, because it is a very hard question, because people will say, but I'm a slave, but I just think, to be a slave, in my eyes, 24/7, you give up total control. It's all about body, mind, and soul. Heart, mind, and soul.
I appreciate you stating that. I mean, in my flavor of authority, it's not just about the body, it's about the mind and the soul as well. And maybe I'm going to get on my podium here, but in my world, at least, not only will you serve me in this life, but you'll serve me in the next life. And I think that well, just like the story of there's some sensationalized or fantasies related to authority, what slavery or what mastery can look like. And this is where we have to differentiate the difference between fantasy versus reality. And I speculate that part of the reason why your master sent you off for a year was so you could get more reality of life before you got lost into the reality of what slavery could look like. Consensual slavery, to be clear, but I'm not going to keep prefacing that.
Well, I would actually say, so you're absolutely correct. But also he wanted to, he was also wanting to let me learn on what negotiation was. Because when I was 18, I didn't know what negotiation was. I didn't even know what I was negotiating. I was just like in a whirlwind, kind of going like, I need this, I need security, I need love, I need something that just kind of helps me to build myself up, because I had no confidence. In a way, I had the guts to walk into a Bdsm club for the very first time, all by myself. But that was just like, I didn't want to be missing out something good, because it was like, well, I'm here now. If I go home, I'm going to miss out. And if I do go in and I don't like it, I can go home and kind of go, well, I've done it. Don't have to do it again. But with it all, it was like, I didn't know what I was negotiating. I was 100% unsure on what I was. It was people kind of going like, well, why don't you try this? And why don't you try that? And I was like, I don't know if I've got the courage to basically take on somebody else's responsibility. I actually threw responsibility at Master. I was like, hey, guess what? Hi, Master, take this. I don't want it. Okay. I had never had responsibility in my life. And then somebody went, here, this is your responsibility. And I didn't know what to do with it. It's like, what's this? I didn't have this. Why have I got it now? I don't like it. Went to Master, went, here, take that. And left. I was like, I'm not doing this. And then, of course, that's when Master was like, okay, I guess I'll have to take you underneath my wing for about a year and see how you cope. And I was like, sure. And then 20 years later, I'm still with him.
So it sounds like you had an idea of what you wanted, but some of that idea was very much the fantasy of a novel, right?
Yeah.
And this is like the perfect segue into the next question. How did you first come to embrace your role as a slave?
Oh, that would be when I was in the club. I would say when I did see Masters girls doing their thing. That's when my heart just felt full by just watching them. I was in awe. I was like, I want to be like that. But then, of course, I was like, but in Story of Woe, they don't have a hyper odds. You know what I mean? They don't have, like, the only way I can describe my personality is like, you have a bottle of Coca-Cola, and you know when you put mints into it, and then shake it, and then let the lid go. That's me, okay? In Story of Woe, they don't have that, so I didn't think I was going to be accepted. So when people are like, no, you're fine, you're okay, I'm kind of going like, that's not what happened in Story of Woe. Because like she had a whole different demeanor. She was calm. She was like, you know what I mean? She was like ladylike. And at the time, I wasn't quite ladylike. I did not know how to string a sentence together. I was very squirrel-like. I would squirrel off. I'd be like, and I would also do a lot of avoidance. I was a person that avoided a lot of things. So.
Oh, that's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah.
When you first seen your master and his girls, what did you feel? Like, what was in your head?
Well, the very first thing I was like, oh my God, that's beautiful. But then, of course, in my head was like, could this be really a reality? Could this be, you know what I mean? Is this, what is this? You know what I mean? Because like I've seen them all being happy. They were all calm. It was like they were doing the things that came natural to them. And I was like, I want a piece of that. How did I get a piece of that? And then I remember actually being washed over with calmness myself, because the more I spoke to them, the calm I felt. And then I felt like, wait, I've never felt calm like this before. Because inside there was always a pulling and pushing, and it was like a war, because there was just something not fitting with inside me. And that was a bit of a problem with me, because I just did not know how to, as I say, express myself, and it was very confusing. And when I spoke to the girls and actually managed to speak to Master, I just felt this calmness. And when Master actually spoke to me in the room where there was nobody really about and we could actually have a decent conversation, it was the calmness, but yet love. I mean, he has this aura around him where he is like, I am who I am. And that's not going to change. So it was like, if I could, I don't know how to put it, but if I could actually bottle it up, I think I would be like a billionaire now, because I would be rich. I'd be like, yeah, let me just bottle that up and pass it out. But it's just like his whole aura, you know what I mean? It was like powerful, but yet he was so gentle. He was caring. He was he was concerned, you know what I mean? Because I was so young, he was like, I'm not too sure about this. And he had actually had a sensible head on, because I was like, give me, I want. And I don't know what I wanted really. But he could actually see okay, this person's kind of desperate. We need to kind of like hold back the reins a bit, because you are just going to basically kind of do a train wreck, and you know what I mean? And we don't want you getting hurt. And he was kind of concerned about that. And that's me being really honest. He was concerned about that. One, for being too young, and yet I was like, give me, right there and then. And he was just like, we need to kind of like take you, kind of like rein you back a little bit, so you don't go into something you're not ready for, and then you get hurt. So for me, it was like, actually, this person actually cares about me, but yet doesn't know me. And now he knows me. So it was like, he's like,
probably really cares about you then.
well, you know, he's got like million different names for me. Like, he's Little Monster, Nightcrawler, what else? Nightshade. I've got a lot of names. And River's got a name as well, and so does the other girls, but I've got more names than anybody else. Oh yeah, I've got Dobby and Smeagol.
When you spoke about, like, you know, just seeing that peace and that aura, I remember the first time I seen it. I didn't know what it was, and it took me many years after I seen it to become woo or spiritual, to be honest. It was around 2016. I was at a dungeon. I was at a play space, and two people walked in, and I just felt them. It was, not to get like biblical, but it was like Moses parted the river when they walked through the room, and you just felt it. And there was something about him, how he looked at her and how she looked at him, the service, the devotion, the care, the nurturing, the all of the good stuff, not just the bad, ugly stuff that we see on TV, you know, in like The Secretary, where she's, you know, carrying coffee like this. That's fun, that's hot, that's sexy. But most of this is a lot deeper than that, at least for me personally, right?
Yeah, and as you were talking about being sexy, I mean, like, the play is, for me, play is part of it, but it's a very small part. But yet the submission of somebody giving that gift of their submission as a gift, now that is what I call sexy, because it has to be given freely, but to somebody that they trust. And I have to say, it's a big commitment. It is a very big commitment.
Absolutely. And I think that this is where that time, I find it very honorable that your master had the character to see you for what you were and say, hey, wait a second, let's give you a year. Let's give you some time, even with you being eager as you are. I'm going to go ahead and throw men under the bus because I'm allowed to, because I'm a man, apparently. Most men have an eager 18 consensual adult. They might jump into some authority really quick. To each their own. It's not saying one's better than the other, just to be clear. But from my perspective of what I know about you and your master and his household, I think that part of that was the foundation that has led you to this 20-year relationship. Right? Because before he knew you, you already knew he cared about you.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna speculate here, and please correct me if I'm wrong. That made you feel warm and tingly, and that's my words, right? Maybe it made you feel at peace. Maybe it made you feel at home.
Oh, it definitely did. I think actually, honest to say, sorry, it did make me feel at home, and it did certainly every time I mean, it still happens today, and I don't really talk about it, but he still gives me the butterflies when he walks into the house when he's coming back to work, or when he's coming off his computer, just to kind of like give me that moment of peace by just putting his hand on my head. It just gives me the butterflies and the fuzzy warm feeling. As I say, I'm not very good with my as I say, I'm not very good with my emotions. As I say, when I cry, I call it leaky face. I hate crying. Like, why is my face leaking? I don't like it. But yeah, I just have this warm feeling. I know that I'm loved. Whatever master says something to me, it always comes from a place of love. I know that. I have heard so many people in my past using words to hurt me. Not once have I ever heard my master saying words to hurt me. In fact, it's always to build me up, to be a better person, to encourage me to go and try new things, and empower me to do new tasks or new challenges in life. And sometimes an odds will cut herself out a tree and still bounce up and be okay. I'm just saying it's happened. It happens. You know what I mean? But you learn mistakes. You know what I mean? Like, a mistake happens, you learn from it. Yeah. Sometimes people still will hold it against you, but nobody was seriously injured. No oddies were hurt during that tree cutting the tree down.
I have a mantra in my household. Mantras are very important to me. And it's actually a new one. It's my most recent, actually. I've always had this kind of in my life, but never this concise. There are no failures. There's only feedback. Only spaces to learn. It does not have to be a negative space. Like I said, you didn't get too hurt, right? You didn't lose a limb or anything like that. You got an experience, and you probably learned a few things not to do.
Well, you'd think that. I'm always up to trying it twice, maybe 3 times, just to actually kind of get it drilled into me.
You got to try things at least twice, because the first time you're too nervous to enjoy yourself, right?
Yeah. And of course, you have to kind of go, it's fine. Second time you kind of go, yeah, oh, that's why the first time didn't work. But the task was done. The bit of the tree got taken down with me with it, but it got done. So I don't know what the problem is. Nobody got rushed to hospital. That's all I'm saying. But yeah,
circling back, we talked about how you showed up at a BDSM party at 18. You met the person that you wanted to be your master. He sent you away for a year. You come back. You don't want to leave. His girls petition for you, for lack of better terminology. That leads me right into the next question. How has your understanding of being a slave evolved over the last 20 years of service to your master?
I think with me, it was to do with I think it was just that I wanted to do it. I wanted to have the freedom to be myself during it. I wanted to just kind of find that missing piece of the jigsaw that was in between me. And to do that, I had to kind of go to the journey with like the other girls that done that before me, and basically kind of make myself more open-minded than what I was. I'm just trying to figure out, like, this as a slave, you know what I mean? Beforehand, it was like, am I worthy of master's trust? Am I worthy to be able to do the task that he's asking for? Have I got the courage to say I can't do it when I cannot do it? Do I have determination to go, one way did not work, but we can do it another way? So that was kind of my process of it all. I think the girls would have probably said something different, but kind of go like, it came naturally to me to basically kind of go through the stages of the training and then slowly getting a wee bit of responsibility. Because remember, even though I'm a slave, I don't really fully give up responsibility, because now, as responsibility of the slave, of the beta, I have to basically make sure that master's clothes are sorted and they're ready for him when he gets up in the mornings, that his meals are prepared. We too take turns with his alpha slave on meals, and she makes sure that the clothes are out prepared for me to get them sorted, so like they're ironed and pressed, and then he's wearing them on that day. And then because we go through the meal processes of like on Monday, this is what's going to be for meals. I have to make sure that they're all ready. Pardon me. So that's responsibility on me already. I mean, like, who knew about me having responsibility? I didn't even think I could be trusted with responsibility. So it was like, okay, I'm now getting bits of responsibility back, because not only that, as a slave, I also had the responsibility of my safety. So this is where Protocol 1 and Protocol 2 come into our household. I can't speak about everybody else, but in our household, we've got Protocol 1 and Protocol 2. Protocol 1 is to protect myself and for Master. And then, of course, Protocol 2 is basically, if I am in such of a danger, I can leave that front door at any point in time just to get away if I was in a threatening or worrying situation that I was not keen on. Never ever happened. This household, I must admit, we don't argue, we don't shout. We will basically kind of we can have an adult discussion to say, look, this is what I want, girls. Can it be done? I know a lot of people would be like, I don't know. I'm always going, yeah, of course they can. Yeah. If it doesn't, then at least we say we tried, right? I mean, like, who knows? And that is basically how I see it. It's like, well, it is a relationship. It's not to put the S type down. It's to build them up. And I think if you're putting somebody down, then there is an issue. Unless they want it, of course. I mean, like, I can't kind of jump on other people's yum. So it's like, you know what I mean? I just think, like, if you're going to basically get into this type of relationship, seriously is to build up, not to break. Don't break your Ferrari.
Yeah, I mean, you've made a really good point here, that, at least from my perspective, in order to build the foundation and maintain a long-term authority-based relationship, it's not about the position, it's about the trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
And one commonality that I have seen since I've been in this community is there's that trajectory. Almost every person I know that identifies as an M type or a D type, they're reading, they're bettering themselves, they're growing. Same for S types. Now, is this a unilateral thing? No, not at all. What I'm speaking here specifically is long-term authority-based relationship. There is a trajectory of growth.
Mm-hmm.
I think you just said, don't break your Ferrari. I want to make my Ferrari faster because it's not fast enough, right? So I want to read the instruction manual. I want to watch all the YouTube videos. I want to see what performance parts I can put on and what I can't, right? And I think that goes back to like the fantasy versus reality of what some of this can be, is that in my opinion, just like you said, the only time to put someone down is when it's sexy. And I'm not trying to yuck anybody's yum or anything like that, but I don't think that's a long-term sustainable thing. Like, and I'm probably wrong, to be clear on this one. Just for me, I don't think it's sustainable.
Mhm.
And I think that when we zoom out of these relationships and don't focus on like the sexy times of putting people down when it's consensual and sexy, right? That there's some wholesomeness to it. There genuinely is. Because it sounds like your master genuinely cares about your future.
Mhm.
And part of that, go ahead.
I said, of course it definitely does, and I'll just go into it very quickly. For Master, he has to pay for my stamp because I am living in with Master. That means I don't work, so he has to pay for my stamp, which is basically making sure that my pension is paid for. For my 30th birthday, there he actually paid for my funeral plan. Now, a lot of people think, "Wow, that's a wee bit morbid," but reality is that if he goes away, now reality is right, and I hate to be morbid about this, he is probably going to pass away first. He doesn't want to see me when he goes to see me worrying about things like, am I going to be hitting the retirement age where I won't be able to do things and be unprotected by the state? So he had to put in a pension, pay for my pension. What about when he passes away? Wait, what happens if I pass away? You know what I mean? Am I going to have to basically worry about that? But wait a minute, for all these years that I haven't, you know what I mean? So it's like a roundabout of wheel, you know what I mean? So it's like a circle. So like, if I am not actually earning a proper wage for my job, how am I going to basically get a pension? If I'm not going to get a pension, then how do I pay for, the worst of the worst case? So Master has covered all bases for me. And of course, God forbid that anything does happen, you know what I mean? At least he has actually covered the bases to make sure that I'm going to be secure and looked after when he goes. And that is it's a big responsibility. And a lot of people might not realise it, but taking on somebody else like an S type, it is a responsibility. And it is what it is. I'm not saying that everybody needs to, you know what I mean, like, oh, do this, do that. I mean, it's up to you. I mean, it's about communication. But because I have basically done this for a very long time, I have been a slave. I'm been very lucky to basically be in a situation where Master has been able to put these things in place to keep me secure and looked after. If things go,
That is a lesson that I learned a harder way about taking care of what's yours after, right? However that may look like. And for the sake of the conversation, we'll keep this person's anonymity respected. But I had a slave in my service for about 2 years. And in that 2 years, COVID happened. Because of COVID, I took the responsibility of moving my slave onto my property. In all of that, I also took the responsibility of changing her career path. Long story short, the last 6 months of our relationship, there was a few things that were rocky between us. And eventually, maybe the last 2 months, she brought it up to me that part of the reason that she was still working on the relationship was because she had nowhere to go. And that hurt me. I didn't want her to be here only because she didn't have somewhere to go. So we had a talk. And I didn't think about any of this before because I didn't plan on her living here. COVID kind of forced my hand. I made the decision I didn't think about the long-term responsibility of my decision. When she
Mm-hmm.
was a singer-songwriter and performed live music and could no longer do that at COVID, I encouraged her to pursue a career in musical education where she didn't quite make enough money to secure her own place. She was very dependent on me based off of my decisions. And once this came to my attention, I had to sit on it. I didn't know what to do. I felt a little ick, honestly, because it was like I didn't want this person to be stuck with me, right? That
Mm-hmm.
wasn't my intention. So we had a lot of talks, and I ended up giving them a non-zero sum of money that was enough to account for a few months of bills for them. And they were able to move on with their life. Since then, I've considered this because we've talked about it. In my head, authority is in this life or the next. Well, what if I die before you? I still got to take care of you until you get to that next life because I'm waiting for you to serve me.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why I haven't had anybody wear my collar for the last few years, because I've had to step back and really evaluate the level of authority that I'm asking and the level of responsibility that I'm offering. And I'll get off my soapbox. So I just, it's so admirable what your master has done for you. I'm slightly envious, and hopefully I can continue to learn more and more from you and your household.
Thank you, sir. I mean, I must admit, I am very, very lucky where I am. I have a privilege where not many have. Um, I have, I have actually landed on my feet very. I mean, like honestly, just having a master that was willing to give me a chance. Even though it did take a lot of persuasion. I mean, like it wasn't like, yeah, I'm going to take you. It was like, what the hell? I don't usually take people underneath 25, and you don't have life experience, and do you know how to tie your shoelaces? You know, that kind of thing was actually that was probably what was going through my sort of like, kind of like, can you change your shoelaces? You look like you've just came out of school. Um, but yeah, I mean, like, it is a responsibility, and sometimes we don't see the, like the bumps in the road, and that is actually a problem, because I wish we all had foresight to see, kind of go, oh, that's going to be an issue. But usually it kind of like hits you like at the last minute. You're kind of going like, when did that arise? That's when I find it very important with my dynamic with master, is that I can actually speak freely and kind of go, we're about to hit a road bump. I don't know how big it is, but we're about to hit a road bump. How do we want to take it? Do we hit it head on? Do we go around it? What? You know what I mean? See, when I say go around it, that's me trying to avoid the problem and avoid the situation. I'm very good at that. It's not healthy sometimes, because I'm like, I'll hold back until like it pops up again. You know what I mean? And by this time, it's like a bigger pothole, and you can't miss it. So it's like, yay, well done, odds. You know how to like totally make a situation worse, because if you just said it at the time, it wouldn't be so bad. With master, he does, I mean, like, I should have said this at the beginning, was that when I was first starting out to do my training, it is mandatory that you do a journal for a year. Now, the journal was quite important to me because I can put down anything that I want without being punished. I could basically kind of go, you know what I mean? Like, I had a really bad day, and I'm not allowed to swear. Okay. I don't like swearing. It doesn't give me a good light. Okay. And if it doesn't give me a good light, then I would hate to see what it would do to master. Okay. Because I am a projection of master. See, my thought process is like, my very first thing when I wake up is to do my mantra, and focus on master. That's I know it's like, what? You do what? Yeah, I do my mantra, which is basically I'll sit kneel next to master's bed and kind of go, good morning, master. This is going to be a wonderful day. This is a glorious day that I love you and I hope I serve you well. Of course, he will have his hand on my head and he'll be like, thank you, girl, for basically being there to serve me. And of course, guess what? You won't believe it. I wake up, we're like, yay, another day. Yay, 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 yay. And then, and I will go and do what I have to do, like service-wise, like making a cup of tea. But even though I am very hyperactive, I am very aware of how many steps it takes to go into the kitchen. I like to feel the texture of the carpet to the linoleum to the kettle and see how many steps it takes. I like to watch how the water boils through the kettle and of course choosing the cup. Now, a lot of people will be like, why a cup? Why does it matter what cup you give them? See, I bought a cup for myself and I didn't realise it, but I actually became Master's Cup. And it's a Gothic cup with 2 unicorns on it. And the theme is called Sacred Love. I feel like my love to my household is secret. So I give him that cup. So I will basically make sure that the tea bag's put in, the sugar's put in, and then of course when the water's boiled, I will pour it in gently. I don't go, it's all right, it's only a cup of tea, and start splashing it out, and you know what I mean? No, it's got to be done with love. So I'll basically kind of count to how many minutes for a tea bag to be soaked. Put 2 sugars in, put the milk in. Of course, the water's been in, and then of course I stir it gently, and then I take the tea bag out, put that in the bin, and then of course when I lift it up, I'm like that. Just imagine this is actually a cup, people. Okay, this is how I present it from the kitchen. It takes me 10 steps to get out of the kitchen onto the floor. And of course, I love the feeling of how warm it gets on my hand. It's just the time of it, the coolness to the warmth. It's like, oh, that's nice, actually. And then I will kneel down to Master. And then, of course, Master will, if he's busy at the computer, he will stop for just a couple of moments. He will look down. He'll put his hand on my head again. And he's like, thank you, girl. And we carry on. And he'll take the cup and he'll take a taste of it. And this is when it comes to the important part. Because if you've missed out a sugar, Master will know. So Master will be like, yes, it's a lovely cup of tea, brilliant. If not, then you better run because he's about to pour it over you. I wouldn't recommend pouring hot water over somebody, but you know, if you're into it, yeah, you're okay. That's why I
Sounds
kind of
like
logic.
Service really helps slow you down.
Oh, it does.
And
it's very
bring you into the
important.
present.
Yeah, it's very important that I do my service. My service is, it's not all about the sexual kinky stuff. It's about actually me being in the moment and present with Master. If I am away and I am doing a very stressful thing, so I will, sorry to diverse, I will come back. So when I was doing a university degree, I never even thought I'd ever get there to a university degree, to be honest. I had to go away for a couple of weeks, for a couple of days without Master, and I got so homesick. I wanted to come back. I was like that. And I even noticed that when I was away on doing the different tours of the world to like America was further away than London is to where Master was. But America, when I had to go to these places, sometimes I felt really out of depth, if that makes sense. As I said, with my strong accent, my strong Scottish accent, people misunderstanding me, thinking that I'm being rude when I wasn't clearly being rude. And it was like, I want to go home. But I always kind of like went towards something like would remind me of Master. I didn't have a collar when I was in America, right? But when I was in London, I had this collar on. And I remember the very first night in the hotel room kind of going like, I want to go home. I don't know why, but it was like, I need to get home. I am not comfortable here. And I grabbed on my collar and I just took a deep breath. And I went, how would Master feel at 10 o'clock at night to say, can you come and pick me up in London? So I had basically phoned up Master and I went, hey Master, just to let you know, arrived safely, yay. We've just arrived. But how do I say to Master, hey, we've just arrived, but yeah, I want to come home? So I was like, so Master, what would you say just now if I said, like, say, like, at 2 o'clock in the morning that I phone you in tears saying I want to come home? He went, I'll pick you up. Right. That's just giving me an escape route. And he says, yeah, but are you going to miss something important? And I went, well, I really want to see the horses. And he's like, okay. So would you want to come home or do you want to see horses? And I'm like, I don't know. So that's a hard one. Why is it hard? Because one, I miss my Master. Two, I want to go and see horses. So it was like, right, well, I'll let you know how I feel. So I went back, touched my collar, put myself in a mental state, and it was basically kind of like, you know that you're safe. Nobody's going to hurt you. And if you really do need him, he'll come for you. But you really want to miss out a life chance opportunity. You've been across the world. You've been in situations that nobody's probably ever been in before, but you have, and you've survived. So what's wrong with London? And sure enough, I was fine. I stayed, I had a fun time, and I went back again the following year. So, as I say, if you don't do it once, you can do it twice.
So I'm going to skip around on our questions because you kind of touched a little bit on one of our questions and you started to talk about some of, in my words, rituals. So my question for you is, what rituals or practices strengthen your connection to your master?
Well, I have a mantra. I have a morning mantra, and I also have a nighttime mantra. I touched on my morning mantra. My nighttime mantra is me kneeling at the side of Master's bed, again with his hand on my head, with my head bowed, and I go, "It's been a great day of serving you, and I love you, and thank you for allowing me to serve you." And then the good Master's like, "If your chores have been, if the house is locked up and your chores are done, then you may rest." And that is very important because it means that I have done a good day's work. Okay. If he was in a, let's just say, if he was not happy, he would probably kind of go, yeah, it could have been a better day because of this, this, and this, and this. And if you want, you know what I mean? You may rest. And it doesn't make you feel like you want to sleep because you're kind of like, oh. And I can actually honestly say, a dominant, a master, M type can basically punish a slave or an S type, but the S types will punish themselves more than 10 times more than what the M types can do. I am sorry. I know that when an M type says, but you've done your punishment or we've spoke about it, it should be gone. No. I can guarantee you, if it was me, I'd be still thinking about it in 2 weeks' time, going like, nope, we did that wrong. You know what I mean? And here's the thing. I know that I dwell on it. And when I dwell on things, I'm not really focusing on the next task. I am not focusing on the next job at hand. I am too busy to go like, I failed. Even though Master doesn't say the word failed, it's not what helps me because I think I have failed. So he doesn't use the word failed, but I do. And then because that's where the other thing where my training comes in. It's from my thought processes. Why do I think I failed? What's in my memory bank that made me think, wait a minute, that's a failure? Why not learn from it? You know what I mean? So again, training method comes back into play on that one. But again, as I said, we do talk about it. When I do a hiccup, I mean, it's not like a major thing. You know what I mean? well, when I say major thing, it depends on what you're calling major. I mean, like, it's an odd thing, okay? I have a tendency of breaking things. If it's not breaking things, it's ruining £300 worth of food. Yeah. Yeah. So, like, the wash machine, okay? I am going to go into the wash machine. I walk into Master. I'm holding the wash machine door. I do think that the manufacturers have lied, because on our wash machine it said it can hold up to 8 kilograms. I do not weigh 8 kilograms. I am sorry. But I ended up standing on the wash machine. The door comes off. I walk in, kind of go like, I need one of them. He's like, what's that from? I'm like, the wash machine. Why is the door of the wash machine in your hand? And I'm like, well, I need to get up to the top shelf. Now, everybody, I don't know if you know my height, but I am 5'1". Master would be like, take the one off, but I'm keeping the one. Okay, we need all the inches that I need. So 5'1". I've got the door like literally in my hands, kind of go like, we need another one then. Master's like, why were you standing on the thing? And I'm like, to get to the top shelf, to get the tray, to basically cook the food. Let's just say Master was like not too happy, so I had to face the wall. And at the wall there's a nose print. And at the nose print above it is a picture that my slave sister did. So I've got something to look at when I'm in that position. And it's not there. I'm not there often enough, but when there's a nose print, it tells you that I'm actually there more than I would like to recall. So, yeah.
I think it's great that something else I've gotten from this interview is that your master has really allowed and encouraged you to be you in all the facets, the good, the bad, the ugly. Right? And once again, for me, that is an amazing thing. Even as an M-type, D-type person, when somebody sees me for me, right? I don't always wear collared shirts, but I'm still a master in my relationships, to be specific. I can wear silly shorts or sweatpants because I want to be comfortable sometimes, right? And it's very important in these relationships to be seen. And I don't think, for me personally, outside of the BDSM community, and even probably more specifically outside of authority-based relationships, I don't know if I felt that I was able to be myself inside of that relationship. I felt shame or judgment, perhaps guilt, right? I didn't want to, I didn't feel like I could be myself. And to be fair, some of that is definitely on me, right? But at least from my perspective, inside of the BDSM community, inside of the MS community, there's a lot of encouragement for authenticity.
Yes, I totally agree, sir. For me, when I was coming into the BDSM world, there was a lot of things that a lot of people told me, and that was like, be yourself, be truthful to who you are. Okay, you get more respect if you're more truthful to yourself than try to basically put on a mask and pretend that you're something that you're not. Also, with society, sadly, yeah, when it first came out with the very first warnings of people will attack you for what you believe in, that was kind of, and then I was like, but who would attack me? And they went, anybody that has a different opinion from you, anybody that sees you as a threat, anybody that, and you know something, baby, it's very true. I mean, like, it's, the threats are there. people will basically attack for no reason. Or if they do have a reason, then you'll never find out what the reasons are. As a wise person said to me once, which is Master, you can't reason with unreasonable people. If you can't reason with them, then you can't have a conversation. There is no conversation, and you'll never find out why. So sometimes it's just basically kind of keep your head up and swim like a duck, even though you have to kick hard underneath the water, but just swim gracefully, you know. And I think that is I think that was one of the best advice I could ever get, because it was one of the things that kind of came up was when people were telling me about this, like, people will attack me because I am going against society's norms, right? And I was like, oh, but, you know, I don't feel like I'm part of that society. I'm like, this is why I want this, because I feel more at home than over there. And that's what kind of drew me to BDSM. I knew that there was, like, no offence, people could go to jail for practicing BDSM, and still can today. But it was like, when people were kind of going like, hey, people are going to attack you for this, I had to go to Master and kind of go, please tell me this isn't true. You know what I mean? Because, like, I really don't want to do time. And of course, Master was very honest and open about it, and he was like, yeah, it's, you know, you can't consent to getting hit. I'm like, but I'm an adult. And you probably know, and people might have heard about the spanner case quite a bit. So, and that was one thing that Master had mentioned to me, was about the spanner case, and I was like, I had no idea. You know what I mean? And that was just people having a party in their house that were, I think the case was that because they were gay, and of course the police raided and people got sent to jail, and that was kind of sad because they were all consenting adults, and I was like, but that's wrong. Yeah. But of course, in the eyes of the law, it's very grey. Well, it's not very grey, it's very black and white.
Far behind, right? I mean, I don't know the laws in UK, right? And even the laws in America, like you stated, they're different from state to state. But ultimately, from my understanding, my disclaimer, I'm not an attorney, most of what we do, we cannot legally consent to. Mostly because, at least in America, the federal government has not defined consent. Once again, just my personal opinion and understanding, not an attorney. And once again, this is, I think, where, for me, some of that shame or some of that guilt came from. As a man, I was raised fairly old-fashioned, that I'm supposed to protect and provide. Yet I like to do all kinds of fun, consensual things to people, but that didn't sit well with me. That made me somehow less of a man because I like to put my hands on consensual adults. Nonetheless, I think that what conversations like this does is it makes other people not feel alone. 2008 is the first time I didn't feel alone. And spoke about it before. I got to hear Flag speak, and it was the first time I realized that I didn't belong in prison. I just needed to learn how to negotiate, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to diminish anything, right, at all. There's a big difference between illegal activities and what we do. Nonetheless, I think before I get on a podium and go like way out here, it segues us into another one of my questions. What misconceptions about slavery do you feel are most common?
Okay, well, I'm going to speak about experience. Yay. My experience is that we get called a cult. We get called Satanists. Yep, we've been done that. Oh, also we having how do I put it? Kidnapping? Yeah, I mean, like Master said that he had somebody had put a claim out that saying that he had kidnapped me. At one point, I was held against my will, and FetLife was shut down on me because somebody put a complaint in saying, I was held against my will. And I was like, well, if that was the case and I had the internet, why would I be trying to set up a site and not try to get away? Right? I mean, it was like, really, are we going to go down this road of like, you're going to go and believe this? And of course, lucky enough, Master had somebody that was a lawyer who kind of jumped in and went, this is not right. You have not heard the full story and you've just basically shut this person's site down. You know what I mean? And they were like, well, what do you think we should do? And he went, well, I think you should actually listen to her. And of course, we did do a meeting and they all agreed. They went, we're sorry that we actually did not do the right protocol of what they should have done. They just went because they heard of held hostage. You know what I mean? They were like, we're quickly shutting this down and not actually hearing from my point of view. And then they realised like there was no actual, there was nothing illegal happening. It was all done by proper, and I was a consenting adult. And it was kind of heartbreaking because I was like, why? You know what I mean? What did I do to get it was like, really? Something's not right here. You know what I mean? Why are you all just jumping on this person's beliefs and not actually coming to me and getting my side of the story? Because, as I say, I'm an open book. I'm happy to talk. I will basically tell if I'm not happy. You will also tell that I'm not happy. But I was not happy that my page got put down. I was like, really? It's like when I get blocked, I get really upset. When I should be the one that's blocking people, but it happens. But the other concept we have kind of came across is that we are basically bad people. You know what I mean? We're basically society's worst, and it's not true. That is definitely not true. They also say that with the MS, with my lifestyle, is that we're more haters than we are lovers. That's not true. We don't hate. You know what I mean? Hate is a very powerful word that you can never take back. In my opinion, I just think I know that a lot of people would say, "Oh, but we've seen it on a movie, or we've seen it, or we've heard about it." It's like, yeah, but that's not the truth. You know what I mean? And I think it's really good that when people are coming into FetLife or into, like other sites with BDSM and actually getting the facts, I think it's actually more helpful, even if it is even from some stuff. But I find it with us, the concept of it all, it's like we just have to basically kind of make sure that we're being truthful with ourselves and being honest. With anything, I mean, people are going to come and say things and it's not true, but listen to the other person. Don't jump to conclusions. That's all I can say about that one.
I think you definitely hit on some of the big misconceptions. I mean, in my words, that there's something wrong with us. But in my perspective, most adults participate in BDSM activities. They just don't have the terms for those activities usually. Once again, I'm going to throw guys under the bus, at least heterosexual guys on this one. Most of us like schoolgirl outfits or various other sexy outfits. Well, it's called role play. But we have kind of desensitized that. And actually, the best example that I really have, Sir Ezra offered it last week, was the fetishization of women's breasts. This is not a sexual reproductive organ. There's no reason that it should be attractive by a male, yet it is very acceptable for men to be attractive. Are you a boobs or a butt guy? And that's okay. But that's either or is by definition a fetish. We're not all that different. Most of us work at the hospitals or the schools or the accounting firm or the bank or wherever else that you do too, right? There's not much difference. I mean, not in my opinion.
I mean, as long as, I mean, like, as I say, with it all, you know what I mean? I mean, yes, have your kinks, you know what I mean? As long as it's consenting, you're not hurting other people and you're not hurting yourself, then I don't see a problem. It's only when it becomes detrimental to yourself and others, then that's when I think you should actually stop and reevaluate on what your goals are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's like, you know, we've said it a couple times, like, don't yuck someone else's yum. And ultimately, if what works for me and my person works, and we agreed upon it, and we're both informed, and all the we can put all these token words or whatever we want to put here. What else matters? A big thing that I have, once again, not only in my household, but also for me as a person, as a human, is to limit external influences in my life. If me and my person have a wonderful relationship, I don't care what anybody else thinks. And I'm not trying to be facetious. I'm not trying to be an asshole or egotistical. I genuinely don't. They're not in that relationship with me. And if they don't understand and they don't agree with it, that's okay. It genuinely is. And I think that that's a big thing that the diversity of our relationships is a lot bigger than what we see in vanilla communities or vanilla or egalitarian relationships, I think is a better term. But that doesn't diminish anyone. That doesn't elevate anyone. As long as, like, it's like the keywords: consensual adult relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Have fun, or don't have fun if you don't want to have fun. I don't know. I like to have fun. I like to laugh and giggle and do silly stuff.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, that's another conception as well on the S type, right? Everybody, I've came across it where they kind of look at me, kind of go like, "Are you really an S type?" And I'm like, "Yeah," right? It's because one, everybody expects an S type to be silent and only spoken when they're spoken to. Okay, that's not me. No. I'm sorry. I am one of these people that will basically kind of let Master walk in first, then of course the other girls, and then of course I'll wait my turn and I'll be like, "Hi, I'm here." Okay, and everybody kind of like stops and kind of go, "Oh, sugar." Okay, and then of course they'll ask Master a very important question: "How much sugar has she had?" Master would be like, "Well, you know, she's not had a lot." And they're like, "Right, okay, we can cope with her. At least just cope." Sometimes if I have had a wee bit more extra sugar, they're like, "Oh, good golly, we're going
I
to
know,
wait
and
for a
I'm
while."
responsible for you drinking a Monster tonight. Oh my. Oh my.
Like, I have been well behaved. I have not done anything like totally out of whack. So, and of course, I've basically stayed on track most of the night. So, I'm doing good. Thanks.
You have done very well. This has been a wonderful conversation. And actually, I really appreciate searching for a word, just the laughter, the fun, because I too fell into that believing in the construct of what a master was or what a slave was. And this is where I coined a term, I'm the brat master. Because, you know, I'm a brat with authority pretty much, you know? And I enjoy having fun. But at first in my world, I didn't really believe that a master had fun. They were strict and rigid, and neither did a slave. And I'm like, I'm attracted to this, but this doesn't even seem cool. And then there's a fairly respected MS couple that's somewhat local to me. They're title holders, in my opinion, very respected members of the community. And when they first ran for their title, people were shocked because the slave is a male. It's a female led relationship. He is like you, a ball of energy, right? And he has all these stories and he's fun. And when I first met him, and then he was like, "Oh, I'm slave so and so," and I'm like, "Huh?" Like, he's like, "Yeah, that's my master." And then I sat there and I'm very reflective, or at least I think I am. And I sat there and I looked back through the whole night, like all in like a life flashing moment. And sure as shit, he was a slave. I watched when she looked at him a certain way, no more laughter, no more fun. When she looked at him a different way, all the fun, all the giggles, all the laughter, the authenticity, the respect. Once again, the energy, the connection. And I love and appreciate when I get to see these authentic, true to self relationships. I don't, and I'm not saying anything because I used to be that rigid person. Odds, you know me. How often have you seen me in a tie? I'm very
A lot.
rigid. And it was very good for me as a human and as an M type to allow fun into my relationships. It's more sustainable.
I've always said, I mean, it has to be fun. I mean, I think if I if I was not allowed to be a ball of energy of what I am now, I think it would be a disaster because what do you do with that pent up energy if you're not allowed to express yourself? What happens if you're going to basically put on a mask and kind of go, I'm not allowed to talk, but yeah, I'm a talker. I mean, it's okay. I mean, like if I put myself in the shoes of my slave sister, okay, who lives with Master. Now she's an alpha. She doesn't talk. She does talk with her expressions, and her eyes will basically tell you a lot of things. Like she'll basically tell me to like behave just by a certain like, or if she's caught me, she's like, "You've got about 24 hours to tell Master, or I'm going to tell him," and it's like, yeah, I'll I'll
Be right over.
yeah. The other one is like we will basically push each other underneath the bus and try and see who can actually outrun. See, the problem is I can't run, so I'll have to trip up the other girls just to get a head start. But as long as I don't get into Master's reach, I'm fine. But with Master, he has this thing where he has this thing in protocols with me. That's another thing. He has a way of kind of helping me. So like when I'm in social settings and I get a wee bit too much where I'm starting to kind of go into an unhealthy energy where it's too much even for me to control, he allows me to go away underneath a table. And you will find me underneath the table because that table is like my shield. I cannot go past that thing because it's covered and it's like a budgie. You know, like that budgie that keeps talking, but then you put a cover over it and it shuts up. It's like, stay with me. And it helps me to focus and it helps me to calm down and it helps me to remember that some behaviours is not okay for other company because it can be too much for somebody that has another neurodivergent person in the room, you know what I mean? So an energy of mine might not be useful or helpful to them. So I have to kind of like rein myself back in. By doing that, I'm going underneath the table. If an energy is off in the room and I don't feel comfortable, I will hide underneath a table. It's not that I don't like somebody, it's just that an energy could just totally take me off. And that's a problem with me as well. So we have this thing where I have a place where I can just totally go back into my mindful state in a place where nobody can see me, so I'm not making a scene for myself. Because again, I can't do a scene for myself. I cannot do the poor me, boo me odds. You know what I mean? It's just like, no, I don't want the sympathy thing. It's just like, just let me get me out of my way, let me do my thing, and then when I'm in a proper headspace, let me come back out. That's another protocol that Master's got for me, as well as when I'm like, when I've gone away for a while, so like going up to Scotland to visit family. I can go up to Scotland, do my thing up in Scotland, still phone up Master in the morning, asking them what underwear, and also give them a nighttime routine by giving them a good night text with my mantra. And then, of course, when I come back, it has to have the house for 5 to 10 minutes of silence so I can just let go. It's like, this is what happened. Wow. And then it's like, and then I can go and do my thing. If I don't get it, it boils up. And say, I mean, like my first mistake of it all is, and I didn't realise that I'd done this, was when Master was working. And it was a very important phone call. And I just kind of burst into the office going like, bleh, and he's like, not now, not now, you know what I mean? And I'm like, I'm sorry, you know what I mean? I'm like, so I had to kind of like build, like stop what I was doing, keep half of it in, and then by the time I was like overwhelmed and in a corner crying, going like leaky face, it was not a good look. And Master was like, what happened? And then of course we explained it, and then he's like, right, this is going to be a new protocol, this is what's going to happen, and this is going to allow you to come out in a normal, basic, you know what I mean, like a normal, safe way for you to release. Because this is not helpful, that's unhelpful for what just happened there. It was unprofessional on his part, you know what I mean, that made him look unprofessional, and I didn't mean that. And of course, it kind of put me in a mess. So he was like, we need to try and figure out how we can kind of go about it. So I give Master a lot of notice before I walk into the door to say, guess what, this is where I am, I'll be in like 10 minutes. And then of course he can basically kind of do what he has to do. And then when I come in, he's like, now you can release. And then I'm like, bleh. And then it's like, yep, okay, I can go back and do my service. And it works. I mean, that could just be me going out the shops, just doing a basic shop run, you know. And yes, it's as I say, it has to basically work. You know what I mean? If it doesn't work, then evaluate. With us, I think what we've got just now works for us. It works for me. I've been here for 20 years. I don't see myself leaving.
I don't either.
As Master says, a slave is not just for, you know, a slave is for Christmas. A slave is not just for Christmas, it's for life. And I'm a very expensive slave, so, and I'm worth it. Just putting it out there. Right?
So I do want to kind of wrap up. I do know that it's very late there. That's approaching, I think, 4 a.m. your time. Yikes.
Yeah.
But a very, very important question that I want to make sure that we do ask. What do you find most fulfilling about being a slave?
Most fulfilling for being a slave? Being with my master. Being me. Being able to be me. Being accepted by my family. Being able to serve daily without having any bad remarks. Being loved. Being safe. Security, and of course knowing that Master will basically protect me from anything. You know what I mean? I could be facing a bunch of, no offence, a bunch of lionesses in front of me. I just need to know that I've got Master behind my back to kind of go, you know something, you've got this. You know what I mean? It's that's the most important thing for me is like master, having a master, loving my master. And of course, here's the thing, and I'm just going to basically give you my little bit. And it's important to know oneself and know what you want and what do you bring to the table. But in all relationships, vanilla, kink, power exchange, it's just you have to understand this is not a game. You know what I mean? This is you're dealing with human beings who have emotions, and it's just for me, it's like I couldn't. I don't think I would be here if I didn't have this. To be honest, I wouldn't. I probably would be somewhere in a dark place or in a prison cell, wondering, what the hell, you know what I mean? And I had to basically to grab everything by the horns and just go with it. And I think that was actually most important is that Master gave me a chance and I proved my worth. Thank you.
That was beautiful. Thank you. Seriously. The last question, like a last official question I have is what advice or resources would you give someone that's considering a master-slave dynamic or relationship?
Okay, I might have a few intakes on this one. For me, I think it would be most important that, as I say, yourself. Be honest with yourself. Know who you are. Know what you want. What do you bring to the table? But if you want kink, stick with kink. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, I am just saying that if you want to own someone, make sure to put in the work and understand the mindset of the S type. Okay, as I say, you're dealing with a human being who has emotions. Be prepared for the unknown. But I recommend for anybody who's reconsidering the MS lifestyle is to explore self-development reflective practices, such as those outlined on Where I Am Led workbook by Christina Parker. That's a very good workbook. Also for the M types, it would be Mastering the Art of Mastery by Raven Kadara, as well as Real Service and Building the Team by Raven Kadara and Joshua Tenpenny. And they are my very I would say they're my very important books. Just remember that you are what Mama Vi says. It has to come from your heart. It has to come from here. And understand that when you're negotiating with a master, you're negotiating your life. It's not a game. This is like, to be honest, it's like you have to make it work. You know what I mean? And to do that, you have to put the work into it as well. Don't break your toys, people.
Actually, I haven't heard of the where I believe it was Where Am Led Exploration. Is that the workbook
Yes.
by Christina Parker? I was not aware of that. I actually just posted the Amazon link, so I imagine I will probably buy it.
I would actually say I have done that book about 3 or 4 times now, and I keep going back to it, and every single time it changes.
Interesting.
It's because I feel like I always find something new to put in or something more mindfulness, more in the mindset, and it's like, oh, that changed me last year.
It's amazing how much we've evolved, right? I mean, like I've taken personality tests or various brain tests because of my professional life or I did in the past. And even these are like science backed tests and it still changes.
Mm-hmm.
You as a person still change over time, right? And I think it's very important to understand that evolution. But I don't want to get lost on another topic.
That's okay.
And so wrapping up, this is the time for shameless plugs, or do you, I know this is your first interview. I didn't even get to like throw it out there. This is the first time that Odds has been interviewed, has presented, or discussed slavery publicly. Thank you. You did
You're very
awesome.
welcome. Thank you for having me, sir. And
So now you might not have any classes planned, but you probably should.
well, I mean, like, if Master's happy with my process of tonight and I haven't rambled on too much and I haven't embarrassed them, then hopefully yes.
Well, if there's any way that I can offer my support,
Thank you,
let
sir.
me know. Because as someone that's known you for years, I feel that I have a much better understanding of who you are as a person and who you are as a slave. So I'm so appreciative. The conversation and the thoughts that were spurred tonight. You've left me with something, so I appreciate it.
I just want to pass on something. Just my final words. I want to say, yeah, I do have fun. I can have fun with myself. I can laugh at myself, but I do take my service very seriously.
Fair. So we're gonna go ahead and get this wrapped up. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Dominance Dialogues. If you've enjoyed tonight's episode, be sure to subscribe and share. Join us next week, but actually, we're not going to be here next week because in America, it's Halloween, and I'm not going to compete with spooky season because I like spooky season. But join us the following week for more insightful conversations that challenge the way that we think about power, relationships, and ourselves. And as always, stay curious, stay intentional, and keep the dialogue